they don't give us services when we need them. And you know, the whole pre-existing conditions thing, I mean, that's just wrong. You pay into it forever, and then they don't give you what you need. But, you know, I can't hear you anymore. Oh wait, no, okay. I think we found a point of agreement.
Yeah, we can agree that we can agree that that system doesn't work. I find it interesting that you seem to, at least in the way you phrase things, you more specifically kind of personalize what you have a problem with.
Oh,
what you see non-functioning.
Yeah, I have a brother.
You go, the insurance companies, and you associate a lot of intention and human quality.
Look,
system.
My family is wealthy. Okay, my brother has insurance through my father's work. We don't have any problems at all. We don't have any problems. We don't have any problems paying for anything. Mm-hmm. Nothing at all. I am worried about the people that don't. Because it's
No, I was just talking about just like this, just the way that you talk about like insurance companies. You talk about them like they're people, and you associate with them the sorts of intentions.
You know what? Thoughts. There are people. There are people who are physicians.
Right, but is it
on board who deny people services that they are entitled to?
It's the idea. It was the proposed solution, and then now we're seeing the negative effects and the possible exploitation points.
I mean, it's just nothing more than money.
A system that wasn't going to work, but it's the system that's the problem. It's not the people. You've got a system that allows exploitations, and those are, I mean, inevitably, whatever loopholes a system has, someone's going to take advantage of them. So, but it's not really but you can't really blame the people because they didn't design the system.
Right.
System is what's the idea, the institution, the concept, the proposed solution that we have now is what's broken.
You also have to think about the fact that when we don't have a centralized healthcare system, people go to the emergency room, get healthcare because they're entitled to it. Mm-hmm. That's why everything is so expensive.
I don't know that that's why it's so expensive.
Well, no, hospitals have to write off. I've seen it. I've been up front with it.
I've heard way more complaints from financial officers at medical institutions regarding the insurance companies and the difference between what they bill and what they receive.
Well, that's the thing.
They have to inflate what they bill based on their calculations of what the insurance will actually pay.
They have to bill like 5 or 6 times as much
inflation cycle
to get what they're worth, and that is an effect of the insurance companies.
Right. I mean, it's still I think that the first step is going to be to remove all of this artificial back and forth. It's not between the closer you can get a thing between the producer and the consumer of a service, the more accurate the valuing of that service is going to be.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. But there are always going to be people who just cannot afford it.
Right, but it's better to reduce the size of that population and then address that population than to address the universal population at the behest of a small population.
Allow that population to fall. It is incumbent upon us.
But to inflict violence on the rest of a see, this comes up a lot. There's a lot of different things where it's like you're inflicting violence on a large population because of the actions or problems or whatever of a small population. And I don't find that correct. You can't justify violence.
Well, you're equating taxes with violence.
Justify violence.
Your taxes aren't violence in my mind. I'm pro-tax.
But they are. It's force. You have no choice. It is a forced situation. Because if you don't pay your taxes,
be without taxes, we wouldn't have a military.
That's not what I'm asking. But you have to start at the lowest fundamental level in order to reduce the unnecessary restrictions on those fundamental principles. And if you start at the top and you go, well, what else are we going to do? You're gonna do a lot more, and you're gonna create a lot more problems, and you're gonna do a lot more violence, because you're implicitly accepting, well, you got to do some violence, so let's just do more of it, right? But if you start with, I want to remove as much of this force and violence as possible, then you can narrow down to where it's really, you can agree that.
I think you're using the word violence as a misnomer.
You can't really justify it, but people can. There can be you can agree to allow a certain amount, but you've got to start at 0 and decide what you allow, and not start with, well, we generally allow it, so let's allow some more. You've always got to go back to 0 and go, really, and weigh that against that, either those basic.
People who want to take America back want to go back to the 50s. You know what happened in the 50s?
I don't want to go back to anything.
The top marginal tax rate was 92%. Dwight Eisenhower.
It's one of those things. Basically, we started messing it up. George Washington started like screwing it up, in my opinion.
Dwight Eisenhower created
the very first instance of government violence on the people for government's own purposes. I mean, it was George Washington. So I mean, we've been in decline since we were founded, basically.
I'm a Jeffersonian.
You know, I mean, I don't even like George Washington.
I'm a Jeffersonian.
I like Thomas Jefferson.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
Part the Bible, took out all the mystical stuff and left all the moral stuff in. Jefferson Bible. Look it up.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those things. That's a cynical. That's part of me. I'm not an idealist, because I see the decline. I think we've already broken records for as many people and as much land and as much power and as much crud as we've gotten into. We've lasted a long time, and we're still doing okay.
Well, you know what? We're the fucking youngest country in the goddamn world. Right,
but if you look at countries of similar, you look at Rome and some other things. Like, it's very interesting historically to look at situations of structure like we've had. I mean, we've got a structure that is somewhat original, but I mean,
our fathers were brilliant.
That's part of my problem, is I don't actually see a global solution to any of this.
Our founding fathers were brilliant. I don't. They set up a government that is, unfortunately, it's starting to crumble apart, but almost infallible. It was a very, very. That's my opinion. It's like they were had amazing foresight, and actually did an extremely good job of dealing with a problematic situation, which is designing a government. But I mean, we have been in decline, in my opinion, since the founding. But I think I do think there is, based on my historical, readings and research, I think there was I found an acceleration in the decline about the turn of the last century. Around 1900, there was a significant shift in thinking post Civil War. How old are you?
I am 27.
27. Okay, I thought you meant the turn of the 2000th century.
No. Well,
that was a bad time too. That was a bad time.
I know technically, as I said that, I'm like, that could be interpreted wrongly, but then I'm like,
that was bad. That was a terrible period too. That's a bad period too.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting, and I ended up coming back because I've logicked and looked at so many times, and it's like one of those things. Basically, if I had to analogize my view is that we're in a car headed towards a cliff, and occasionally we get to, and people think that we get to decide who's driving, and then we get to steer the car, and we don't.
Yeah.
Basically, you can occasionally have someone slightly direct, like the most minute difference in controls. Like, you can maybe shift it, you can maybe pull back on the accelerator a little bit. We're still headed off the cliff. And it's just basically, some people step on slightly increase the accelerator, some slightly pull it back. But that's about all that's actually happening.
What do you believe about climate change? Do you believe in it? Because it is happening. I mean,
I haven't been able to find sufficient evidence of the idea of the causal. Like, I find the causal links is where I have a problem. Like, you can establish the differentiations in temperature, but the causal links that I've been presented with, and I've read a lot of stuff. I remember reading papers back before it was gospel, and that was interesting because you actually got to read a lot more contrary opinions.
That every scientist in the world, except for the ones that are in America that have business interests in fossil fuel, don't agree with it.
Well, this is one of the things. I mean, I've done my own research on a lot of stuff, and I mean, I've read a lot of scientific. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means, but
we've had the hottest summer.
I haven't found definitive causal evidence as far as it's concerned. As far as it is X that's causing it.
You don't.
I've run across a lot of alternative opinions to that.
Carbon in fossil fuels tear apart the ozone layer. You don't
say that again.
You don't believe that carbon emissions and chlorofluorocarbons tear apart the ozone layer? You don't believe that?
I think that I've seen different numbers on the amounts of human carbon emissions versus natural carbon emissions. Like, I haven't seen stuff that says that
I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Okay.
Human increased carbon emissions are significant enough to be the primary causal issue, if that makes sense.
Why? All right, then explain to me why the acceleration in climate change coincides with the Industrial Revolution.
So what would you define as acceleration? Because that's the other issue I have, is that a lot of, and this is you have to get to a really deep level, but the established idea of
took place over thousands and thousands of years. Now it's taking places over 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Florida and Manhattan are going to be gone in 50 years if we keep up. If the pace keeps up the way it's going, Manhattan's going to be underwater in 50 years. And half of Florida is going to be underwater in 50 years. And New Orleans is going to be...
Yeah, well, they're almost underwater anyway.
And the polar ice caps are melting. I mean...
Right, I mean, this is just me. I like, going devil's advocate. So what is the motivation? What is the motivation to prevent climate change in the layout of the environment?
I like you.
Right? So now you gotta look at it from that. Okay. So we're saying, so if we accept that humans are causing this acceleration in change, what is the argument?
Because we don't want to burn. We don't want to leave our children with a horrible earth to live on.
At what point would it become an unlivable earth? We don't want
Florida to disappear. We don't want Manhattan to disappear.
Shifts in land masses have happened before, so that's kind of that's a personal valuing thing.
Tens of thousands of years, not tens of years.
I don't know. So.
Okay, well, American conservatives are the only ones that don't agree with it, and I find.
I'm just trying to argue both sides. Like, this is me. I don't know enough to have come to a conclusion.
I know enough. I know enough to.
But I also don't put that much stock in everybody agreeing, because
I know enough to find patterns of behavior.
Not always right.
In America, there's a need and a want to keep fossil fuels going, and in other countries they're not. They're exploring other ways.
Another thing I would propose is, right, theoretically we have a finite supply of fossil fuels, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the theory, is that they're ancient. I mean, there's a finite supply. And once we use it up, it's gone.
I know that.
So, can you estimate the theoretical, the probable amount of fossil fuels that remain on the Earth for us to use?